Sundown towns. Let's talk about it. Jasper County, Georgia is 78th on the list. By 1894, Jasper County was sick with Jim Crow and fits the criteria of a Jim Crow sundown town. Segregation in public spaces, schools or housing, terror from the hoods, the police or citizens, violence or worse. This county was home to and so many other lynchings. Let's learn history. Our ancestors were enslaved in this county. The white people of Jasper County built generational wealth from our ancestors' free labor. Their whole economy existed because of our ancestors' free labor on their cotton farms. So much so, this county was one of the largest producers of cotton, with Monticello, the county seat, being the center of it all. Right after the Civil War, the newspaper tells us that our ancestors started buying land. We also acquired churches like Muddy Creek Baptist and founded churches like St. James AME. And right before the turn of the century, our ancestors were segregated in areas like the later known Washington Park neighborhood. Our ancestors also started a short-lived newspaper called the Jasper County Plain Dealer in 1897. But before the turn of the century, this county solidified itself as a Jim Crow sundown town because in 1884, John Hopkins was violently unalived in his jail cell by a mob for a petty crime, the newspaper tells us. In 1894, Lee Lawrence was lynched, and the governor put out a wanted ad for the lynchers, all bark, no teeth, because in 1898, Ed Merriweather and Jake Glover, maybe he did it, maybe he didn't, they released Jake Glover, but a mob went back for him, and both of those men were lynched. This red-hot Jim Crow sundown town wanted to send a message of fear to our ancestors living in this county. Know your place or else. Come back for part 2 as we learn about one of our historic neighborhoods. We'll learn about our first schools here, the patriotism that we show, the lynching of an entire family, and the separate lynching of one of our preachers that would put Jasper County, Georgia in papers nationwide. Part 2, Sundown Town number 78, Jasper County, Georgia. In part 1, we learned about the generational wealth that the white people in Jasper County made from our ancestors' free labor. We also learned about some of our first churches and 4 documented lynchings. Let's continue learning. By the turn of the century, Jim Crow was in charge. As the railway station was opening in Monticello in 1901, the blueprints had waiting rooms for our ancestors that qualified as fully unequal. Yet another lynching from an accusation. John Brown, aka Lee Greer, was lynched in 1902. By the early 1900s, our ancestors were buying houses in Washington Park neighborhood. Our neighborhood was named after our brilliant ancestor Booker T. Washington, as we were attempting black economics, so it was just right for us to name our neighborhood. In 1906, our ancestor Cody Bryant was said to be, quote, the richest Negro farmer in the whole state. In 1906, the newspaper also tells us that 58 of our ancestors were busy building the railroad in Monticello. The paper also told us that we had at least 5 schools in Jasper County by 1905. But not too fast, know your place in this Jim Crow sundown town, as the Daughters of the Confederate erected a Confederate monument in 1910 to honor the should-be-shamed Confederate soldiers. And in 1915, Dan Barber, his 2 daughters, Beulah and Ella Charles, and his son Jesse, was stolen from the Jasper County Jail, taken to our community, Washington Park, and lynched, all 4 of them. They could have been taken anywhere, but to take them to the middle of our community was deliberate. They wanted to send a message to our ancestors loud and clear: know your place. In case you're wondering, we're at 8 documented unalivings of our ancestors in Jasper County so far. This real and ever-present segregation, dehumanization, terror, violence, and unalivings while living in a Jim Crow sundown town couldn't stop our ancestors. We still loved our country and wanted to prove our patriotism. Some of our ancestors from Jasper County went to war in 1917, and in 1918 our ancestors marched in the local parade and helped raise money. In the 1920s, our ancestors were able to save some money to make sure we could receive an education. And in 1921, Jasper County Training School was built in Washington Park. Our ancestors raised more than half the money and donated land for us to go to school through the 12th grade. The determination of our ancestors. But in 1921, the lynching of our preacher, Eugene Hamilton, by a mob uncovered something so dark, it's hard to stomach. Come back for part 3 when we talk about the farm that John Williams and his sons operated in Jasper County, Georgia. Part 3, Sundown Town number 78, Jasper County, Georgia, and the county seat, Monticello. In parts 1 and 2, we learned about our ancestors enslaved. We learned about our first churches, our historic Washington Park neighborhood, and the first 9 documented unalivings of our ancestors. Before we continue with part 3, let's do some background knowledge. Let's build up some background knowledge. That's what we call it in education. So peonage, you're going to need to know about this. This was forced labor where a person was heavily persuaded to pay off debt. And it was made illegal in 1867. It's the son of slavery. It's a brother to sharecropping, and thanks to black codes, it's a cousin to convict leasing. Okay. Let's continue learning. 1921. Peonage is illegal, but for John Williams and his sons on their cotton farm, that was just a technicality. The current subdivision, Turtle Cove, sits where Hewlin Williams once farmed. One day in the spring of 1921, a boy at the river was playing when he saw a foot. 2 bodies were tied together with chains and wires and 100-pound bag of rocks. Then another body. And another body. 11. Yes, 11 bodies were pulled from the Alcovy River, but those were the only ones he was charged with. There were many, many more. John Williams and his sons, Hewlin, Marvin, and Leroy, would go to other county jails and find our ancestors with small crimes like loitering, who had small bails. He'd bail them out and take them to his farm. Once on the farm, our ancestors had nowhere to go, and they didn't know the area, effectively trapping them on the farm. John Williams, his sons, and hired help would beat the peons. If one got away, they would find them, and some were unalived. Our ancestor, James Weldon Johnson, was in charge of the local NAACP and demanded justice. In the end, justice was not just, typical of a Jim Crow sundown town. But in the 1930s, our ancestors were dealing with a minimum of 20 racially motivated unalivings in this county. Yet our determination is unmatched. And by the 1930s, Dr. Frederick Douglass Fundenberg had a booming medical practice. He made it into Times Magazine in 1946. We were still dealing with separate and unequal schools, but integration was on the horizon. But by the 1940s, Governor Herman Talmadge did not want to see integration. He would rather close the schools than to see our ancestors get equal education. These people throughout the Jim Crow sundown town era would often cut off their nose to spite their face to hurt our ancestors. Sounds very familiar to what we see today. To do so, private schools was where a majority of the white population here sent their kids. Private schools had the power to not let our ancestors attend, and that they did, leaving school segregation effectively in place until an attempt at integration after the Brown v. Board decision. Can anyone share a first-hand account about this place, past or present? Share this video. Tag them in the comments. Let's learn.